After Jiang Wei came to me, the situation immediately reversed. Ma Zi once again became the target of public criticism. It wasn't until evening that the lowly voice on TV announced the start of voting. Looking at the raised hands, Ma Zi's entire body felt like it was about to collapse. He frantically jumped onto the table and strangled Jiang Wei. "This bitch! I should have killed you from the start." Qian Hu finally took effect, pulling him and throwing him out. Ma Zi's forehead hit the coffee table, blood flowing down his cheek. He held his wound tightly, struggling to stand up, shouting at Jiang Wei. "This bitch, when you came to northern Myanmar, you said you'd rather follow me than entertain guests. How did you become so wild as soon as you entered the game? Without me, you would have been ridden by thousands of people." Jiang Wei stood up tremblingly and used all her strength to slap Ma Zi. Ma Zi's face was slapped to one side, a streak of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. "I was kidnapped to northern Myanmar by you. If I hadn't said that back then, what else could I have done? Human traffickers like you deserve to die." Jiang Wei's tone changed slightly. Ma Zi glared and pushed her down. "You're just a bastard. No matter what, even if I die, I won't forgive you." Before Ma Zi could finish speaking, Qian Hu punched him in the stomach. Ma Zi screamed miserably and lay on the table. Qian Hu pulled him to the ground and stomped on his face. "I don't care how you're wronged, but you can't bully a girl in front of me." Ma Zi spat out 2 bloody teeth, glaring at Qian Hu angrily, saying word by word, "You idiot, Jiang Wei is also a wolf." Qian Hu sneered. "If she's a wolf, then I'm your father." The lowly voice on the TV rang out again. "The chosen one will be eliminated immediately. And those who injure others will be punished with electric shocks depending on the severity of the incident." Ma Zi was instantly blown away into a bloody foam. Qian Hu was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Jiang Wei was punished with 2 small shocks and a warning for that slap. She rolled around in pain a few times and fell under the table. The entire place was silent except for the lowly voice on the TV. "How exciting! Now please return to your room and the werewolf will start killing." Before Lowly could finish speaking, I coldly lifted the tablecloth, pulled Jiang Wei out, took out the knife in my hand and stabbed her hard in the chest. The speed was so fast that Jiang Wei didn't have time to scream. I walked towards Qian Hu and shook the bloody knife provocatively. Someone cautiously walked over to check Jiang Wei's breathing. "Stopped breathing," Lowly pronounced judgment on me. "Injuring others will be punished with high-voltage electricity." The electricity passed from the bracelet on my wrist to my body. I felt nothing. Except for my hair curling. Shinigami do not conduct electricity. Don't they understand this little bit of knowledge? Qian Hu's eyes were red, he held the knife on the table and pointed at me. "So you're a real werewolf. You deserve to die. It's not even dark yet, and you're already eager to kill someone?" Perhaps because he was afraid of being electrocuted again, Qian Hu didn't dare to attack me no matter how much he screamed. I held my forehead and hoped that God would give this stupid guy some intelligence. When the whole room fell silent again, the lowly sound on the TV rang out again. "Ding, the game is over. The organizers have discovered that the last werewolf has been killed, so the good guys win." As soon as she finished speaking, the wall in front of us opened on both sides. It turned out that behind this wall was an extremely splendid room. A huge dining table stretched the entire length of the room. It was filled with all kinds of world-class delicacies. "Now, everyone, enjoy your victorious dinner." Qian Hu was completely confused. Who can explain to me what is going on?" The real prophet in the crowd patiently explained to him. "Jiang Wei is the last werewolf, she died, we won." Qian Hu looked at me angrily. "Hi Sa, I'm sorry, I blamed you wrongly. I ignored him and bent down to pat Jiang Wei's face. It's time to wake up, the sun is shining on your butt. Jiang Wei gasped and opened her eyes. Holding your breath is really tiring. Everyone's faces were shocked. Qian Hu's CPU was burned out again. That's right, since the game is over, there's no need to wear this anymore, right? Under everyone's envious and surprised gazes, Jiang Wei took off the bracelet on her wrist. Qian Hu stammered, Quick, put it on quickly, if the organizer is not happy, it will explode. Everyone. Jiang Wei smiled. The organizer's bracelet cannot be taken off by ordinary people, only Hai Sa can take it off. My bracelet was broken by Hai Sa a long time ago, this is just a bracelet specially made by Hai Sa. I just secretly wore the special bracelet under the table, so the organizer discovered that I was dead. Qian Hu shook his head, No, I just saw Hai Sa stab you in the heart. I combed my newly curled hair. You idiot, don't you realize this is a retractable knife? On top is the ketchup you just used to dip your French fries. Qian Hu ran to the side to find out the details of this incident. Before he could understand, there were several thuds, and several people knelt down in front of me. Please, Sister Hai Sa, save us. Dozens of wrists stretched out in front of me, all of which had shiny bracelets on them. Crack, I broke them all. Finally, a fat black hand reached out. I looked up and saw Qian Hu's silly smile. With a clack, the bracelet fell to the ground. Thank you, Sister Hai Sa. I stroked my curly hair and said in a noble and cold manner, It's nothing, just leave the grilled chicken leg to me. After everyone had enjoyed their meal, the door slammed shut. This time, a young male voice mixed with electricity rang out. Welcome to the secret room of The Last Supper. The temperature in the secret room is constantly rising. You must escape from this secret room within the time limit, or you will be cooked alive. Before he finished speaking, I had kicked a hole in the wall. I tied up my curly hair and applause erupted behind me. Sister Hai Sa is so strong. Qian Hu said a little embarrassedly, I am not even worthy of washing Sister Hai Sa's feet. Jiang Wei stretched her neck and shouted at the top of her lungs, Hai Sa, you are my god. After leaving the room, we entered an extremely luxurious VIP room. Sitting on the chairs were people with colorful hair. Each of them, raising their hands and feet, said, I am a noble. This was the VIP that Loli had mentioned. And we were just playing their New Year's game with our lives. Sitting in the center of the chair was a young man with blonde hair and unhealthy pale skin. He was tilting his head and talking excitedly to his indifferent companion beside him. I blinked at the extremely beautiful girl. It was my older sister, Hai La. My sister's expression was a little depressed. Moreover, she had a bad habit of killing people whenever she felt depressed. My sister frowned at the blonde man, Lucas, is this the most interesting program you mentioned? The blonde man smiled proudly. Of course. I've been hosting this program for 5 years and it's been great. But... Lucas stretched out his finger and pointed at me in the crowd. This girl is really interesting, she can help so many people survive. My sister proudly raised her head, looked around, and finally smiled. Lucas, the real interesting thing isn't this program, but the ability to manipulate other people's lives at will, right? Then Lucas. The smile on my sister's lips grew bigger and bigger. Just bring your high and mighty VIPs and die. While everyone was looking on in a daze, my sister calmly cursed. Lucas, within 10 minutes, you will bring the VIPs in this room to broadcast the real-life werewolf killing game worldwide, and also die miserably in the game. My sister read out the names of the VIPs one by one, you will kill each other to death, no one will be able to survive. Ha! 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 Lucas's pale face turned slightly red from laughing. Hi La, are you crazy? How can respectable people like us participate in this kind of game like those commoners? I folded my arms and waited to see a good show. Since my sister was here, I basically didn't need to make a move and could win in just a few minutes. They basically didn't know anything about my sister's terrifying abilities. Whoever was called out by my sister and cursed would not be able to survive the next day. Sure enough, before the VIP's sarcasm and ridicule stopped, their bodyguards suddenly arrested them one by one with empty eyes. Hey, let me go, do you know who I am? Lucas was furious, and before he could finish his threat, he was slapped unconscious by the bodyguard. One by one, fat or thin bodies were thrown into the room where we had just played the game, and restraining bracelets were placed on their wrists. At the same time, Loli's voice rang out in the room, "You guys are sitting here, welcome to the werewolf game." This time, no one would bring them food, only our leftovers. What was even more terrifying was that no one had dealt with the corpses in the room. So what happens when a person is left to starve? My sister took us out of this large villa. As soon as we stepped out of the villa, a girl in a white dress ran to the door, hugged my sister and checked her from top to bottom. "Hi La, aren't you hurt?" The golden halo from her soul suddenly lit up. I couldn't help but narrow my eyes. "Shaoan, don't worry, I'm fine." My sister threw the USB she found in the villa to Shaoan, including video recordings of previous sessions, all participants, and VIP information. Only then did I understand that helping me was just a convenience. My sister appeared here mainly to help Shaoan collect evidence. The police had long targeted Lucas and his group. It was just that their status was too noble. Not daring to act rashly without direct evidence could result in being beaten to death. This time, with this USB and the global live broadcast, I wasn't afraid that I wouldn't be able to defeat them. Speaking of live broadcasts, after a group of us came out, we found that the VIP live broadcasts of killing werewolves had been inexplicably implanted into video sites around the world, and no matter how hard we tried to delete them, they could not be deleted. Users could choose to click to browse or swipe to the side. However, after it was broadcast, the total traffic in the live broadcast room had reached hundreds of millions. Finally, we found time to gather at Qianhu's house, drinking and eating grilled skewers while watching the live broadcast on the screen. Let's be entertained to death. These VIPs never imagined that one day they would also become someone else's entertainment. What's even more interesting is that there is a line of black text above this live broadcast room, which is the identity of all the VIPs. The audience looked at the people in the live broadcast room who were blushing and cursing at others, and their hearts were filled with deep suspicion. Finally, I checked online. Hey, the identities are really not fake. Many of them have been in the news many times. Some people said that they were reporters who interviewed them, saying that these people did not look serious at first glance. Perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps mixed with a little fun, the number of people coming to the live broadcast room kept increasing. The program jumped up one after another. When I saw these well-dressed VIPs chopping up the flesh of the dead to satisfy their hunger, the meat skewers in my hand no longer tasted good. Someone around me vomited loudly. Jiang Wei hugged me with some fear. "Hi Sa, fortunately you saved me, otherwise I would not only have died there, I would have even lost my body." Qianhu directly poured 2 glasses of beer, placed one in front of me, and held the other in his hand. "Sister Hai Sa, if it weren't for you, I would have died because of my own intelligence. There is no way I can repay you for saving my life. I'll finish this glass, you can relax." Then Tian Ho finished his glass of beer. Led by Tian Ho, a crowd roared and stood up to drink. "I finished it too. I finished it too. Me. What the hell is this?" Seeing Qianhu and the others drinking glass after glass, I looked at the beer in front of me dejectedly. A pair of small, white, and gentle hands picked up each glass in front of me and drank it all for me. You can't drink Hai Sa. Jiang Wei burped, glaring menacingly. The crowd burst into laughter. Someone asked her curiously, Jiang Wei, why is your alcohol tolerance so good? There's no other way. I was kidnapped by Ma Zi to northern Myanmar and forced to go out to serve drinks. It was all due to training. Jiang Wei's eyes turned red as she said this. I want to go home to see my mother. Everyone thought of the damn Ma Zi and fell silent. I reached out and patted her on the shoulder. It's okay, I'll take you home. Is that really possible? Jiang Wei asked, moved. Really? As soon as I finished speaking, one person after another cried. Hai Sa, I was kidnapped to work as a coolie. If I wasn't sick, they would have taken my kidney a long time ago. I was deceived, I didn't want this to happen, but they will kill me. Like Jiang Wei, I was kidnapped by human traffickers and forced to entertain guests. I already have a fiancé in the country. I stood up and called out their names one by one. Finally, I said, don't worry, I will take you home. Of course, I couldn't do this, but someone could. Xiao-en. If anything happened, just call the police. Xiao-en recorded all the people I put on the list and verified their identities in the country one by one. Following the recent wave of rescued compatriots, they were brought back to the country. At the airport, Jiang Wei waved to me enthusiastically. Hai Sha, take care. I smiled, take care. Just as I was about to turn around, I heard Jiang Wei shout from behind me, wait a minute. I turned around in confusion, what's wrong? Jiang Wei's cheeks were red. Hai Sa, thank you. I smiled and said, don't forget to call me when you get back. Jiang Wei nodded, then turned and left. Xiao-en, let's go. Xiao-en hummed and followed me out of the airport. After walking for a while, I noticed that Xiao-en seemed to be giggling. I asked in confusion, what's the matter? Xiao-en quickly hid her expression and shook her head. Nothing, I just think Hai Sa is amazing and you can really attract a lot of fans in the werewolf game. In this respect, you two sisters are somewhat similar. I shrugged, so between me and my sister, who do you admire in the end? Xiao-en was stunned for a moment, then looked at me and smiled. I really admired ordinary people like Xiao-en. She doesn't have the ability like my sister to tell who will die, and she doesn't have the strength like me to kick open the secret room. She's just a human being. But she's not normal. There are many people in northern Myanmar who are struggling in pain. Perhaps they are the swindlers that people hate, perhaps they are the girls in the red light district that people regret. The swindlers also have wives, the girls in the red light district also have mothers who are waiting for her to return. They are all waiting for a ray of light, waiting for the day when a group of people with badges on their shoulders will rescue them and smile and say to them, don't be afraid, we're here to take you home. Damn, dog food was overflowing my throat. When I found my sister to say
goodbye,
she was happily eating grilled skewers with Xiao-en. When she saw me coming, she handed me a pile of hot grilled beef kidneys. Hai Sa, have you completed your mission? I nodded. The moment the VIPs were transferred to the werewolf scene, my mission was complete. My sister winked at me. So, how does it feel to be a Shinigami trainee? I lowered my head and thought for a moment. At first, I felt inexplicably bound by this mission. I wished I could run away from home like you. But in the end, when I completed the mission, seeing that girl take the initiative to offer her soul to me to say thank you, it didn't seem so bad. While I was sighing, my sister's mouth was full of oil. One skewer after another made me feel like she wasn't listening to me. I couldn't help but raise my voice and say, sister, you've been in northern Myanmar for so long, haven't you thought about going back? My sister swallowed the meat and wiped her mouth. Oh. You can eat skewers here and justice will be served, so why go back? Moreover, She leaned over and used her palm to support Xiaoen's chin. Can we have such a cute little girl at home? Me. Just when I was about to sit down and eat skewers with my sister, my father gave me another job. There was no way, there were too many people who had died unjustly recently. This time it was a girl named Bai Lu. She was truly miserable, because she was too beautiful. She caught the eyes of the young masters. And because she refused the young master's confession, she was humiliated to death. When she died, it was one body, two lives. This was truly a tragedy. The so-called tragedy was to destroy something beautiful for people to see. Bai Lu and I made a deal. I allowed her to turn into a white cat, follow me, and witness with my own eyes how I would deal with that scum. The condition was that her identity would not be revealed to anyone. Not even her family and friends. Once someone knew her identity, she would have no chance of reincarnation. Oh, all of this was just a joke. Knowing is knowing. No rules and regulations, just have fun. I left the fresh flour cake, a specialty at home, for my sister and Xiaoen, then walked away humming. Xiaoen curiously picked up the beautiful fresh flour cake on the table and took a big bite. It's sweet and delicious. What kind of flour is this? I've only eaten rose cakes and chrysanthemum cakes, but this cake seems to have an inexplicable sweetness. My sister didn't even raise her head. Of course I haven't eaten it. This is a specialty from my hometown. It's Manjusha flour cake. My sister narrowed her eyes. Manjusha flour, Haisa and I used to play together when we were little. Flowers bloom for 1,000 years, flowers wither for 1,000 years, flowers and leaves never see each other. End of Part 2. Part 3, HAISA and the White Cat Revenge Introduction. After I rejected the school boss's confession, he let the whole school bully me. As a result, those bullies either became disabled or went crazy. They cried and knelt before me, begging me to let them go. But I still had a lot to say. Keep going, I haven't played enough. On the first day of transferring to a new school, I was confessed to by someone. A group of seniors who looked like hooligans surrounded me. The tall senior in the lead jokingly pushed me against the wall. Are you the new Haisa? I resisted and pushed his chest away, but only received a sneer. As expected, what they said was right, she really is very beautiful. Be my woman. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people started to boo. The boss is starting to collect a harem again. This junior just transferred in on the first day. You still have to say it, which of the beautiful girls in this school hasn't been played by the boss? These long legs are enough for the boss to play with for a whole year. Boss, don't play to the death like last time. Shh. You, instead of saying the good things, you're saying the bad things. Amidst a series of whistles, I slowly raised my head and smiled at the man in front of me. Hi. Splat, under his smug gaze, I spat a mouthful of saliva straight into his face. Everyone was stunned and shocked by this scene. While they were stunned, I kicked the man in front of me hard in the lower triangle. The man let out an ouch sound, let go of my hand, and jumped up on the spot for a long time. I shook my hand and jumped up and punched him in the face. Immediately, the man's eye socket was visibly bruised. It took a long time for someone to regain their senses and glare at me in confusion. You bastard, do you know who you just hit? I shrugged. I don't know, I just hit him when I felt like it. Someone immediately shouted, our boss is Jiang Chao, the crown prince of the Jiang family. You've caused big trouble. Is it that serious? I pretended to be scared. Then, under everyone's arrogant expressions, I picked up a nearby brick and smashed it straight into Jiang Chao's face, accurately breaking the bridge of his nose. Jiang Chao covered his bloody face, swayed his body, then stared at me. Wait for me, I will definitely kill you." Before he could finish speaking, I rushed forward and used a brick to hit him until he passed out. "Haven't you heard that villains often die because they talk too much?" I threw the brick away, clapped my hands, and looked around coldly. Damn it, the thing I hate the most in this world is people who always put on airs. Will you die if you are a little more humble? Everyone rushed to help Jiang Chao, but I escaped unharmed. I became famous on the school forums. Because Jiang Chao, as soon as he got out of the hospital, started bullying me in the whole school. His men would beat to death all the people close to me, making them unable to stay in school. And all the bullies would be treated as friends by him and given various benefits. He was very talented. I started to like him. At night, someone broke into the dormitory where I lived alone. In the darkness, I could clearly see that it was a petite girl. My little white let out a meow meow sound, her fur standing on end, her green eyes staring at the person's shadow. "Don't be afraid, I hate Jiang Chao just like you." The girl slowly walked out of the darkness. She wasn't wearing a school uniform, and her appearance looked a little haggard. The moment I saw the girl clearly, the little white in my arms immediately relaxed and wagged its tail at her. "Your cat is quite friendly with people." The girl bent down to pet the white cat. I raised my eyebrows. "You didn't come here just to play with cats, did you?" The girl stood up, her eyes shining in the darkness. "I came here to tell you an old story. A story about someone who has passed away. Before I transferred to this school, there was a girl named Bai Lu who was bullied by Jiang Chao to the point of jumping off a building. One dead body, 2 lives. Jiang Chao fell in love with Bai Lu's beautiful and innocent face and asked her to be his girlfriend. Like me, Bai Lu refused. But unlike me, Bai Lu was just an ordinary girl who couldn't even tie a chicken. The end result was that Bai Lu was raped by Jiang Chao, who took a video to control her. Not only that, Jiang Chao also mobilized the family's power to prevent Bai Lu's parents' company from opening, thus cutting off the family's source of income. Bai Lu's family was almost destroyed. In desperation, Bai Lu accidentally discovered that she was pregnant. She wanted to threaten Jiang Chao to let her family go. But Jiang Chao only said softly, "There are so many people, it's not certain that they are mine." In despair, Bai Lu jumped off the building to end everything. 2 fragile, lonely lives were lost in an instant. The storyteller's name was Zhao Lin, and she was Bai Lu's best friend. Zhao Lin's family received hush money from the Jiang family, and then transferred her to another school. I kept comforting the trembling Xiao Bai, looking at Zhao Lin. "Why are you telling me all this?" Zhao Lin gritted her teeth, resentment flashing in her eyes. "Why did they act like nothing happened when Bai Lu died?" "I'm not willing. After hearing your story, I always felt that you could deal with Jiang Chao. I can cooperate with you, and make animals like Jiang Chao pay the price." I lowered my head and picked up a piece of dried fish for Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai swung his leg and threw the dried fish away, then meowed and jumped into Zhao Lin's arms, shocking Zhao Lin. "Kitten." I half smiled and said, "It's called Xiao Bai, it seems like it really likes you." Xiao Bai used his paws to grab Zhao Lin's shoulders, brought his furry little face close, and rubbed Zhao Lin's neck twice. I poured 2 glasses of red wine and clinked glasses with Zhao Lin. "Welcome, my comrade." The management of this aristocratic school was really chaotic. The principal turned a blind eye just to collect money. That was why Jiang Chao could cover the sky with one hand. As soon as I entered the classroom, I saw the words whore, bitch, and fox spirit written all over the seats, and the desks were full of all kinds of dirty trash. I crossed my arms and looked around, finally stopping at Zhang Wu, who was gloating over the misfortune of others. If I remembered correctly, Zhang Wu was one of Jiang Chao's followers on the day he blocked me. I hooked my finger at Zhang Wu. "Come here and lick this place clean for me." Zhang Wu sat still in his seat and sneered. The compass in his hand was spinning very fast, as if he was about to throw it at me in the next second. I sighed, what a disobedient dog. To everyone's excitement, I walked over, picked Zhang Wu up like a chicken, and threw him into my seat. Lick him for me. I shoved Zhang Wu's head straight into the desk drawer. Zhang Wu groaned and screamed, hastily trying to stab me with his compass, but I snatched it away and stabbed the back of his hand. In an instant, fresh blood gushed out. I grabbed Zhang Wu's hair and threw him to the ground in disgust. Go back and tell your master, if you have the ability, come find me, I will play with you guys to the end. Ever since I crippled Zhang Wu's hand, Jiang Chao was so angry that he openly swore to kill me. He listened to his junior's suggestion and wanted to start with my parents first, forcing me to come and beg him. As a result, he turned the records room upside down but discovered that I was an orphan without a father or mother. This was the type of person who ate his fill and his family never went hungry. The records didn't even say where I came from. I laughed, of course he couldn't find them. Because I wasn't human, where would I get the records? Since I didn't have an ID card, I promised the principal that I would give him a library, and so the principal took me in. While thinking about Jiang Chao going crazy, I touched Xiaobai's head. Enemies on a narrow road, on the way back to the dormitory to buy a piece of cake, I ran into Jiang Chao. Jiang Chao was being cheered on, arrogantly raising his chin to order a kid with a crew cut to kneel down and lick his shoes. Looking at the crew cut's humiliated expression, my nosy nature resurfaced. I walked over and grabbed the crew cut by the collar, then threw him behind me. You bastard, I didn't come looking for you, but you brought yourself to my door. Jiang Chao pushed Zhang Wu, who was pulling him away, lowered his head and laughed at me. You're so arrogant, you dared to beat my brother like that last time. I regretfully glanced at the beautiful little cake in my hand, then jumped up in the next second, pressing it into Jiang Chao's face. Jiang Chao, is your memory a little bad? Not only did I dare to beat your dog, I almost gave you a concussion. When Jiang Chao was screaming, I coldly glanced at Zhang Wu. Zhang Wu immediately took a step back. Fuck, I will definitely kill you. Jiang Chao covered his face and screamed for a long time, but no one dared to come forward. In the end he was dragged away with a dark face. The crew cut boy behind me pulled my sleeve, took out a bottle of Coke from his bag and handed it to me. Thank you, I'll treat you to a Coke. I looked down at the can of Coke, not accepting it. If you really want to thank me, just give me a small cake. Crew cut scratched his head. All right, you drink the Coke first, I'll buy you a cake. I took the can of Coke, and immediately saw the almost transparent layer of powder on the mouth of the can. Raising my head again, I immediately caught the undisguised panic in Crew Cut's eyes. I looked at him deeply. Then I opened the can without any extra movement, and took a sip. I was dying of laughter. This thing had no effect on me. Just as I went oh, and fainted, Jiang Chao's group of people rushed out of the darkness. Zhang Wu's hound dog voice was the first to ring out. The boss still has a way to deal with this bitch. Soon, Jiang Chao's mocking voice rang out in my ears. I said, I must force her to death myself. But, my legs felt light as if someone was carrying me. Jiang Chao touched my face. This bitch is so beautiful. Ever since the last time I played with her until I lost my life, I've had to hold back. It's been a long time since I had fun. This little girl is both hot and beautiful. After the boss plays with her, maybe we can have a taste too. There were playful whistles and teasing laughter all around. A weak male voice rang out, all right, don't go too far. It was the buzzard. Jiang Chao sarcastically said, who do you think you are to mind my business? The next second, the sounds of punches and kicks and the muffled groans of the buzzard rang out. All right, don't delay this young master's work because of him. Jiang Chao threw me into his car. Don't mind this dog, let's go to the bar and have some fun. The sounds of fighting suddenly stopped, and a group of people got into the car, laughing. Out of their sight, the corners of my mouth curled up slightly. The bar was indeed a very good place. This bar is the Jiang family's business. In order to have fun, Jiang Chao asked the manager to chase away all the customers. No matter how noisy it is tonight, you are not allowed to come, understand? Yes, young master. Jiang Chao carried me straight to his private VIP room. The entourage set up cameras in the room one by one, laying out a bunch of toys for Jiang Chao. Today, this young master is in a very good mood. I approve you to watch it live. Another series of obscenities rang out in the room. Boss, this is wine specially prepared for this bitch according to your instructions. The moment I felt the coldness of the wine on my lips, I opened my eyes. Jiang Chao's pupils trembled. Everyone in the room unconsciously took a step back, only Jiang Chao, who was psychologically affected by me, froze in place. You, Jiang Chao kept saying you to me for a long time but still couldn't say a complete sentence. He could only turn his head towards the group of people following him and shout loudly, "Fuck, you guys help me quickly." No one dared to move. I slowly stood up from the sofa, gently took the glass of wine from Jiang Chao's hand, then kicked his leg and made him kneel on the ground. There's good stuff here, don't waste it. After saying that, I grabbed Jiang Chao's chin and poured it into his mouth. Jiang Chao's eyes were red, he kept struggling but was still forced to drink every drop. As soon as I let go, Jiang Chao immediately knelt on the ground, vomiting madly. I turned my head to look at Zhang Wu. How long will it take for this thing to start working? Zhang Wu stuttered and replied, 20 minutes. I smiled gently, pointing at a few random people in the room. You stay, in 20 minutes the others will bring me a sow. The people who stay behind turn on all the cameras for me, adjust the lighting, and film well. The disobedient, I smiled very gently. Please consult Jiang Chao for the next situation. I counted down from 3, but before I could say 1, everyone started to move around. It was really simple for a group of rich second generations to buy a pig in a short period of time. I slowly walked closer to Jiang Chao, whose whole body was trembling, and then whispered into his ear. Do you remember how you tortured Bai Lu? I will let you experience everything she has endured bit by bit. The shrill screams continued. At dawn, a few of the underlings came out of the room trembling and handed me the USB. The videos are all copied here. After confirming the contents of the USB, I smiled with satisfaction. The underlings were about to cry. If the Jiang family knew that they had encountered such a situation and were still filming videos for others, they definitely wouldn't let it go. Someone awkwardly opened his mouth. Hi. Big sister. Hi. No, big sister, Jiang Chao has passed out from exhaustion, so what should we do with this pig? I stuffed the USB into my pocket and pointed at Zhang Wu, who was standing in the crowd. Go call a few people to stew this pig, then feed Jiang Chao piece by piece. It's food anyway, we can't waste a single piece of meat. As soon as I finished speaking, someone made a puff sound and wanted to vomit. I smashed the wine bottle in my hand in disgust and said, swallow it back for me. Perhaps because she was afraid of my brutality, a girl with a nose ring burst into tears. I glanced to the side. When Bai Lu was humiliated, the girl with the nose ring was the one who laughed the most and was the one who slapped Bai Lu first. Crying, what right does she have? Didn't she laugh happily when she bullied others? I pursed my lips and slapped her on the head. You're so noisy. Why are you crying? Swallow it. I glanced at Zhang Wu lightly, his whole body trembling. Immediately after, he rushed over and slapped the girl with the nose ring. Sister Hai is so simple and easygoing, what are you trying to do? Come, let's stew pork together. The people who followed me didn't dare to stay in the same room with me, so they were all busy stewing pork. After the pork was stewed, Jiang Chao was awakened by a basin of cold water, and then was forced to eat another basin of pork. Jiang Chao's face was covered in food, and countless cruel words were uttered between his teeth. "Hai Sa, I will definitely kill you." This time, without me saying anything, Zhang Wu slapped him straight across the face. "Is that how you talk to Sister Hai?" After saying that, Zhang Wu smiled flatteringly at me. "Sister Hai, don't let things like this affect your mood." I could see through Zhang Wu's thoughts in an instant. Zhang Wu knew that after tonight, the Jiang family would definitely go crazy with revenge against them. So he wanted to please me to seek protection. But he thought too much. Protection was out of the question, and it was already lucky that he hadn't been beaten. I wasn't interested in Jiang Chao's miserable appearance, so I turned around and left. I went to Zhao Lin's house to pick up Xiao Bai and gave her the USB drive. Zhao Lin kept rubbing the metal shell of the USB, her eyes filled with intense hatred. Xiao Bai raised her tail and meowed, leaving a few scratches on the USB shell. Zhao Lin bent down and kept comforting Xiao Bai. I looked at her. "I'll ask you one last time, if you walk through this mud, will you regret it?" Zhao Lin shook her head. "Do you know what a good girl Bai Lu is? I come from a poor family and was isolated by everyone in school." At that time, Bai Lu stood up, held my hand and told me that family background cannot determine a person's status. Bai Lu is my best friend, but when she was humiliated, I didn't stand up in time. I'm not asking for her forgiveness, I just hope to find justice for her and bring myself peace. While Zhao Lin was talking, Xiao Bai's tail slowly curled up and hooked onto Zhao Lin's arm. It gently jumped onto Zhao Lin's lap, stretching out its legs and patting her head. After a moment of silence, I chuckled. "Perhaps Bai Lu never blamed you." 2 days later, news came that Jiang Chao's parents had rushed back from abroad. In response to the reporter's question, Mr. Jiang forced a formal smile. "I'm back this time because my wife and I want to discuss the establishment of a scientific research charity fund in China. Please look forward to it." That night, I received a call from Mr. Jiang asking for a meeting. I kept the appointment as planned. After dealing with the brats, I had to take care of the elderly anyway. As soon as I entered the 5-star hotel, I heard Jiang Chao's roar not far away. "What kind of eyes do you have for a janitor? Do you think I'm dirty?" "Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that," I pulled the waiter who was explaining in a low voice behind me. "You go down first, this table doesn't need any service now." The waiter looked at me gratefully and walked away as if he was running away. Mr. Jiang was a well-maintained man with deep, bottomless eyes, a middle-aged man with a strong temperament. Compared to Jiang Chao, who was constantly wiping his hands beside him, he didn't seem like a useless scumbag. Ever since the video was filmed that night, Jiang Chao had suffered a huge mental shock. If he encountered something unfavorable, he would feel that others looked down on him and thought he was dirty. Evil was truly rewarded with evil. I walked over and sat across from the father and son. Jiang Chao stared at me, his face showing blue veins, his hand holding the knife and fork trembling slightly from using too much force. Mr. Jiang patted his hand, then calmly looked at me. "Miss Hai, please make a price. We have to take back that video." I slowly rubbed my fingers on the edge of the cup, then raised my head and smiled. "I'm afraid you can't afford the price I'm offering." Mr. Jiang curled his lips in disdain. "You say it, there is nothing that our Jiang family cannot buy." Because he was so confident, I didn't need to be polite anymore. "I want the entire Jiang family fortune." As soon as I finished speaking, Mr. Jiang's calm expression cracked slightly. He took a sip of tea to calm his breathing, and it took him a long time to calm down, and then he smiled half-heartedly at me. "Miss Hai, don't talk about this video, even Jiang Chao doesn't cost that much." Jiang Chao turned his head and cried out in pain, father, Mr. Jiang ignored me and poured me some tea himself. Miss Hai, I hope you think carefully. Even though this thing fell into your hands, I have many ways to prevent you from spreading it. Mr. Jiang's tone became even more stern. Besides, it's not worth risking your life for a small USB, right? I shook my head. I gave him a chance, but he didn't want it. He even dared to threaten me. I hate people who threaten me the most. If Mr. Jiang doesn't cooperate, then I don't need to waste time here, not to mention making you guys lose interest. As for the Jiang family's property, I smiled. Of course I'll take what I want myself. I stood up and left. As soon as Jiang Chao returned to China, the families of Jiang Chao's followers suffered disasters one after another, and they were left half dead by Jiang Chao. Especially Zhang Wu. Under Jiang Chao's pressure, the Zhang couple sent Zhang Wu to live with a young lady who liked violence. It was said that on their wedding night, Zhang Wu was blinded. After dealing with this group of people, Jiang Chao turned his attention to me again. In the following period of time, I continuously encountered car accidents, explosions, kidnappings, and assassinations. When I went to the police station for the 10th time to take notes, the police officer skillfully took the culprit from me. Hai Sha is here again. The rose tea you requested is ready. This person is a bit difficult to catch. You must interrogate him and find out who harmed me. After writing the report, I took a sip of rose tea. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Next time add a little sugar to my rose tea. I like sweet drinks. Unable to kill me, Mr. Jiang stuffed money into all the major platforms and did not allow us to release the video. I turned around and asked Zhao Lin to broadcast it live. Just 1 minute after it was released, the broadcast room had not even had a few viewers before the account was locked. Oh, I have lived for thousands of years, and I have many secondary skills. I took out my computer and registered 10,000 fake accounts to broadcast the video live at the same time. The platforms could not block it. In just one night, the video went viral. Jiang Chao alone dominated the top 5 hot searches. Among them, the topic #Jiang family crown prince and pig # shot straight to the top of the hot search list. Oh my god, this pig is so pitiful. Please give me back a pair of eyes that have never seen this video. Help, the crown prince's image has collapsed. The rich play so happily, but I see their 3 views collapse, looking at Jiang Chao's delirious appearance. Is he drugged? Overnight, the Jiang family's stock price plummeted. Watching him build a high-rise building, watching him entertain guests, watching his building collapse. Major shareholders withdrew their capital one after another, competitors took advantage of the situation to enter. Mr. Jiang was so busy that his head was broken. Jiang Chao suffered from severe depression, and was driven crazy by the shock. I took advantage of the chaos in the Jiang family to make a fortune by selling stocks. While I was busy counting money in the small cellar, that crazy Jiang Chao ran out of the hospital and kidnapped Zhao Lin. Jiang Chao's voice on the phone was full of excitement. You bitch, if you want to save this bitch, you have to come here alone. He said he had to come alone, but he didn't say he couldn't bring the cat. So I took Xiao Bai and left. I turned on the live broadcast on my phone and put the camera in my pocket. This was an abandoned factory. When I arrived, Zhao Lin's curly hair was covered in dirt and his clothes were torn. I know you, you're Bai Lu's friend. Didn't your parents take money from my family? But why didn't they take good care of you? How did you collude with that bitch Hai Sa? Why does the heavens want to oppose me everywhere? I just want to have a good time. Who provoked who in the end? Zhao Lin was tied to the chair, his cheeks were red and swollen, he stared blankly at Jiang Chao in front of him, talking crazily. I coughed, loosened my grip and let Xiao Bai come in. Nephew, your aunt is here. Jiang Chao suddenly turned his head, his eyes red as he looked at me, the knife in his hand waved. Don't come here. Stay away from me. I raised my eyebrows and took a few steps forward. Didn't you tell me to come? Just stand there and don't move. Jiang Chao shouted, there's a steel bar under your feet. If you use it to commit suicide now, I'll let this girl go. I slowly picked up the steel bar and waved it in my hand. Jiang Chao, you kidnapped Bai Lu's friend, aren't you afraid that Bai Lu will come to take your life?
Ha! 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 Ha!
Jiang Chao raised his head and laughed twice, his eyes bloodshot. When Bai Lu was alive, he couldn't deal with me. Now that he's dead, I'm even less afraid. But damn Bai Lu, I don't need any money. She insists on jumping off the building and implicating me. Even if she appears in front of me again, I'll still kill her. Zhao Lin, who had been silent all this time, raised his head and shouted indignantly, Jiang Chao, you beast. Zhao Lin suddenly stood up, threw away the rope that had been untied long ago, and stepped forward to slap Jiang Chao. Jiang Chao was stunned, the knife in his hand slid down to his feet. You dare to hit me, I'll kill you. Jiang Chao reacted, rushed forward and pushed Zhao Lin to the ground, then used one hand to strangle her. A white bun jumped out from behind the chair and bit Jiang Chao's hand. The scene was now chaotic. I turned off the live broadcast and used a steel bar to beat Jiang Chao unconscious. Zhao Lin held her chest, it took her a while to calm down. She picked up the dusty Xiao Bai in doubt. Hi Xia, can you tell me Xiao Bai's background? It looks very similar. I comforted Xiao Bai a bit, calmly asking, what does it look like? Zhao Lin's voice trembled. Just now, Xiao Bai jumped onto the chair to untie me, and its right paw patted my arm 3 times to comfort me. When Bai Lu was alive, every time I needed comfort, she would pat me 3 times with her right hand, and it had become a habit of hers. Why? Zhao Lin's tears welled up in her eyes. Did I miss Bai Lu so much that I thought a cat looked like her? I looked at Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai gently shook his head at me. In the end, I didn't say anything. Jiang Chao became famous again. To be exact, Jiang Chao had never been out of the hot search list. But this time, another name entered the search list. #WhoIsBaiLu that live broadcast was like an explosion. 10,000 of my accounts were broadcast simultaneously, causing a huge impact. Jiang Chao was directly arrested by the police on suspicion of kidnapping. And the police conducted an in-depth investigation into Bai Lu's case. Zhao Lin stepped forward to submit all the evidence of Bai Lu's case that she had collected over the past year to the police. Among them was the video that Jiang Chao sent to threaten Bai Lu. Although the original had been deleted, Zhao Lin secretly copied it to his mobile phone. This became the key to solving the case and directly dealt a fatal blow to Jiang Chao. Mr. Jiang was so busy at the company that he didn't have time to deal with Jiang Chao's work. So this matter fell on Mrs. Jiang's head. Mrs. Jiang was blocked outside the police station. She was desperate, so she decided to contact me. Mrs. Jiang and I sat across from each other in the coffee shop, her beautiful graceful face showing obvious fatigue. Miss Hai, I beg you, please let my son go, he is also helpless. I didn't bother to correct her point of view, so I directly interrupted. What if I don't agree? What do you want? Mrs. Jiang's expression immediately changed. She looked at me angrily. You want money, right? I have a lot of money. I shrugged. The 3 members of this family all followed the same pattern. Subconsciously, they all believed that money could solve all problems. But Bai Lu was dead, that was a living life. No, 2 lives. What I want is not important, you should go down and ask Bai Lu, see what she wants. You. Mrs. Jiang was so angry that she almost fainted. But I think Bai Lu only wants Jiang Chao's life. Mrs. Jiang's expression changed several times, trying to suppress the anger in her heart. She coldly snorted and said, Jiang Chao is my son, of course I don't want him to be sentenced. If you dare to touch a single hair on his body, I will definitely not forgive you." The 3 members of this family all had the same expression as they spoke bitterly. I took a sip of coffee. "Your husband and son have both said such harsh words to me. One is currently in prison, and the other will be in prison soon. It seems like you want your family to be reunited." Mrs. Jiang glanced at me with a cold gaze. "Little girl, you are still too young. Our family will not collapse. My son will finally be safe. When the time comes, you—" I lowered my head and pressed the phone twice, then pointed the screen straight at her. The news said, early this morning, Chairman Jiang was arrested by the police. There is information that he is involved in many cases, including money laundering, murder, and illegal financing. Mrs. Jiang glanced at the phone screen, her face pale. I put down the phone, tilted my head to look at Mrs. Jiang. "By the way, what did you want to tell me just now?" Mrs. Jiang stood up pale, staggered out, and even forgot her cell phone. While we were talking, her phone had countless missed calls. I looked at those calls. It was simply a coincidence. There are always a group of stupid people in this world who consider money as everything and deliberately manipulate other people's lives, but they don't know that there are wolves always watching them in the dark. My adding fuel to Jiang Chao's family's troubles ends here. Let the law punish them. I finished the bitter coffee in my cup, stood up, paid, and left. Bai Lu's case was so widespread that the court decided to broadcast the trial live. Jiang Chao and his followers were all sentenced to death. Furthermore, the entire family was implicated. On the same day, Mr. Jiang was sentenced to death for the complicated case he was involved in. On the day of Mr. Jiang's execution, Mrs. Jiang caused a stir in public opinion. That was because she fought with her lover over the remaining family assets. The image of the madam that had been maintained for so long had completely collapsed. Everyone sighed in regret. The national couple was at most this much. I put all the money in the safe into a card and followed Zhao Lin to meet Bai Lu's parents. I hugged Xiao Bai and smiled at Bai Lu's parents. "Hello, uncle and auntie, we are Bai Lu's friends. We met in court before." On the day Jiang Chao was sentenced, Bai Lu's parents burst into tears in the courtroom. If they hadn't been stopped, they would have rushed over and beaten that animal to death with their own hands. "I know you guys. Thank you for finding justice for Xiao Lu." "Thank you. Xiao Lu's soul can rest in peace in heaven." Mother Bai's tears were about to fall again, and Father Bai's eyes were red. Xiao Bai meowed and jumped into Mother Bai's arms, stretching out his legs to wipe her tears. Bai Mu grabbed Xiao Bai and looked at her blankly. "Girl, I don't know why, but I always feel like your cat is very familiar." Father Bai stroked Xiao Bai's head and took out a fish tail to feed it to her. As a result, Xiao Bai turned around, ran over to lift the fish's head, and picked up the crescent-shaped piece of meat under the fish's gills to eat. Father Bai was stunned. "This cat is as picky as my Xiao Lu." Father Bai looked at me embarrassedly. When my family started their business, the conditions were relatively good, so Xiao Lu's appetite was also a bit high because my husband and I raised her. A whole fish, not eating the belly or tail, only eating the best crescent-shaped meat under the gills. Looking at this cat, I feel like Xiao Lu is still alive and right next to me. Zhao Lin remained silent the whole time, looking at Xiao Bai blankly, his lips trembling non-stop. Xiao Bai stretched out his right leg and patted her arm 3 times. Zhao Lin burst into tears. "Why did I only find out this late?" Bai Lu's parents hurriedly found tissues for Zhao Lin to wipe away her tears. I took out my bank card and quietly placed it on the table with a piece of paper underneath. "Uncle and Auntie, this is the compensation I requested for Bai Lu, hoping it can help you to revive the company. Everything has passed, we must all move forward. Bai Lu also hopes that you and your uncle can live well. This cat is my best friend, I'm giving it back to you, hoping it can bring happiness to everyone." By the way, its name is Xiao Bai. I smiled as Xiao Bai jumped back and forth between Bai's parents and Zhao Lin. Then I quietly left. Side story, Hai Sa. I am Hai Sa, the youngest daughter of the god of death. My older sister Hai La inherited her father's natural talent. Once someone is called by her name, death is not far away. Because she is too strong, my father has high hopes. He directly said that he hopes she can succeed the position of god of death. As a result, my older sister ran away from home the next day. I heard that she went to northern Myanmar to become the local king. So my father could only focus on me who was trembling. He grabbed me by the collar and threw me off to learn the god of death. Humans have 3 souls and 7 spirits. My job is to take away one soul of those filled with resentment and fulfill their wishes. It's just a pity that after these innocent souls reincarnate, because they lack a single soul, they will most likely develop disabilities. But it doesn't matter, as long as they do many good deeds, this one soul will eventually develop again. I don't know if my father arranged it on purpose, but the first soul I obtained was a dead girl in northern Myanmar. While helping the girl take revenge, I conveniently stopped by to visit my sister. It was amazing that my sister ruled this northern Myanmar. When I met her, there was a soul of a girl glowing with a halo beside her. The glowing girl was feeding her skewers. What should I do if I was a little jealous? I also wanted to find someone to feed my skewers. Seeing me appear, the glowing girl instinctively stood in front of my sister. Who are you? She pulled the glowing girl back. This is my sister who picked Hai Sa. Then she turned to look at me. I won't come back with you to inherit the family business. I smiled wickedly and knelt down in front of my sister, tears streaming down my face. But no matter how much I cried, my sister was not moved. There's no way I'll come back. There are skewers to eat here, and criminals to play with. I really like it here. I sat next to my sister, watching her play enthusiastically, watching her laugh and joke with the radiant girl. Suddenly I felt like running away from home too. But after completing the first mission, seeing the girl put down her burden and be reborn with peace of mind, my heart was filled with something warm. Why don't I try this job a few more times? Side story, Zhao Lin. I became a regular guest at the Bai family. When they celebrated the new year together, Bai's mother held her belly with a happy expression and said that she was pregnant again. How wonderful! Xiao Bai happily spun around on her own little chair. Bai's father gave Xiao Bai a piece of chicken wing. Xiao Bai, you're going to have a little brother and sister. I looked at the happy family, my eyes filled with mist. Now that I think about it, Xiao Bai is indeed a long-lived cat. At this age, Xiao Bai is considered a middle-aged cat, but it still jumps around as usual. I took it to the pet hospital for a checkup and found that its functions were still intact. I breathed a sigh of relief and felt more at ease. I was very grateful to Hai Sa, the girl who suddenly appeared and then disappeared completely. It was she who sought justice for Bai Lu, and it was she who brought Xiao Bai to us. I hope that Xiao Bai and I can stay with Bai's parents at least until they get old, and I believe that Xiao Bai can stay with us for a long, long time. Because in the end, she is her. End of part 3.